Hello, greetings from Mork's Saloon. Again, you can see our reason for Mork's Saloon in the almond milk video where we explain why we call ourselves Mork's Saloon. Anyway, today we are going to be producing what we call the Daily Green Mary. As opposed to the Bloody Mary, we make Green Marys around here. There's no booze in our Green Marys, but we thought it sounded cute. So that's what we're going to be doing. The purpose of the juice today is basically a major alkalizer for your body. Alkalizer means it brings your pH up. Most of the junk you eat out in the daily world, like breads, dairy, sugars, even fruits also, they're all acidic, and we tend to eat too much of that, making us too acid. And body processing as it is tends to produce acids also. So metabolisms have acid output. So to kind of balance that out, you eat alkaline foods to kind of help bring your pH up to a better level. They have associated things like cancer with a low pH, for example, and other diseases. Disease doesn't like an alkaline body, so there's a good reason to alkalize yourself. How much you want to do is up to you. I can tell you that a weekend of drinking one of these per day for 4 days brought my pH to 7.5. Urinary, not blood. Blood has to be even. But the urinary pH, you can just get test strips at the pharmacy. But 4 days in a row, one of these per day, was enough to bring my pH up to 7.5. At least on the output. I don't know if it was steady for 24 hours, but it brought the pH up that high at some point in time. I think I tested a couple hours after I took the drink. So that's just sort of information for those who are a little more into it. If you're sort of a beginner to all this, you might not want to go for the Mega Mary here, which is 33 ounces. You can go for the Mini Mary, which is more of a 16-ounce glass. It's a hell of a lot better for you than that cup of Starbucks, okay? But at least if you have to drink your Starbucks, balance it out with one of these at the end of the day, or in the middle, or whatever. If you're going to juice, you're going to go organic. You should go organic. And because you're pressing so much into a jar that if you don't go organic, you're going to get a big heavy dose of pesticide into your body as you drink that stuff, and that sort of defeats the purpose as far as I'm concerned. When you design these drinks, you can pretty much do whatever you want. However, there are a few guidelines that you might want to follow to make a higher quality juice. Number one, go organic. There's more nutrition in organic produce, period, because of the soil it's grown in, so that's number one. And number two, we talk about pesticides and stuff. Leafy greens you've probably heard about. Leafy greens are good for you. This is kale. Kale has so many benefits. Kale is one of those top 10s that Whole Foods have this top whatever, and kale is one of those with the most benefits. We always try to include kale. This is kale from the farmer's market today, organic kale. Spinach is also very good. It's a leafy green. It's right up there with kale. Not quite up there, but very close, and they're good to alternate. It's good to alternate kale and spinach, for example. Some people put chard. Some people will even use collard greens. I think those are for cooking. That's my opinion. But chard is soft enough, you may be able to get away with that. It's a flavor thing too. I prefer either spinach, which is very mild, or kale, or mix them. You know, in the beginning, it's good to mix spinach in because it makes a milder drink, and then you get used to it. Then you can start going hardcore and full on kale. It's very good. You don't want to miss broccoli. Broccoli is so good for you. It has so much stuff in it that you need. Cancer fighter and everything else that, you know, it's on the super top whatever. So that tends to go into our green juicing as well. Then we sort of, see, that's green. So in my mind I always think of that as one of the thirds that goes into the juice. The second third that goes into the juice would be not quite leafy greens. I mean, not as green. Normally, this is pretty green. This is romaine. This is summertime. This is great. But in the wintertime, you might be stuck with sort of this romaine. It's not really as leafy green as something like kale or spinach. So don't just use this stuff. That kind of defeats the purpose. But this is a great filler. It makes good extra juice. It is alkaline, so it's milder, and it's a good component to put in your juice. I couldn't resist. This is like $2.69 for a head of organic summer lettuce here, romaine. And this is so green, it qualifies as a leafy green almost, you know, but sometimes you can and sometimes you can't find it. So we'll put some of that in today. And cucumber is awesome. It's one of the mildest things you can put in your juice, and it yields a lot of juice. So if you want on a sort of a starter level of juice, put extra cucumber because it's still alkaline and it does not affect the flavor in any way that's hardcore. I mean, it's very mild. So balance out with cucumber. So cucumber and spinach make for a good. The lettuce makes for a good, starter juice. You can also do other types of lettuce. I mean, it's just we like romaine because it lasts longer. But you can do, if you have a garden, you can take any lettuce you have and put in there. Celery is very good for you. It's extremely toxic if it's not organic. And for most juicers, you do have to cut it up pretty small for it not to get stuck because it's extremely fibrous. But it's also very cheap. Like in New York City, you can get a whole big head of celery for $2.99 organic. That's a very good price in New York City. So by all means, add some celery to your mix. That constitutes the middle third. That's sort of the green filler. Now we get to sort of the special ingredients. I call this the flavor ingredients of the juice, and that is the last third. Let's start with the best here. One, you'll never want to be without ginger. Ginger makes a nice pungent. It makes a nice pungent flavor. If you overdo it, you'll know. It kind of burns. It also tends to sink to the bottom of your glass, so if you take a while to drink it, make sure to stir up your juice because the ginger burn will settle to the bottom. But it's extremely nice as far as flavoring, and also of course ginger is extremely good for you. So to get a daily dose of raw ginger like this, you won't need the doctor. Turmeric, or turmeric some call it. These are cut into little pieces because this is actually organic turmeric from Hawaii that we brought back home and froze, and now we're keeping it in the freezer for juicing. It freezes very well. Ginger doesn't freeze so well, but it keeps very nicely in the refrigerator, so you can keep, see, 9 is organic, see. 9 is what, 5 digits with a number 9 in the beginning is organic. So anyway, so that's obviously from the store. But this is from a farmer out in Hawaii that does organic turmeric with a very high concentration of, what do you call it? Do you remember the name?
Curcumin?
Curcumin, yes. Curcumin is that special ingredient in turmeric that makes it like a big cancer fighter and other stuff. It's also good if you get in a cold. Here we have 2 versions of citrus. It's simply that, again, we live in New York, we can't always have fresh citrus on hand, especially like in the winter. So we have 1 lime here which we can use. It could have been a lemon, but they're $3.69 a pound, so there's no way we're buying lemon this week. So that's a lime. And I actually like lime better than the green juice now, but I think we've gone a little more hardcore. Lemon's a little milder. Here's some lemon juice that was frozen, and you just freeze it in ice cube trays and take it out for juicing, and it's extremely convenient. So again, we tend to buy big bags of, lemons or limes, and we just go home and juice it all up using the juicer, and just freeze it in ice cube trays, and then you have what you need for your green drinks every day. Okay, so this all goes in. Now, this is where we need to make a choice. These are the only 3 items that are not on the alkaline list of produce. Alkaline meaning it's got a pH above 7. These all have a pH below 7. Now don't argue with me. There's a lot of bad charts out there for acid and alkaline, because they burn the fruits and vegetables, and then they test the ash for pH. Now that's wrong, because it burns off the sugar. The sugar and fructose in produce like this will burn off, and it'll test alkaline. That's wrong, because sugar is extremely acid when it goes into the body. And this is all about, again, acid forming versus alkaline forming. This is about when it hits your stomach pH, what happens. We don't burn things to ash when we digest them, so that testing method's kind of faulty. So there's a guy that's put a good list together, and that's the guy I follow, and his name is Ross at energize4life.com. Now, apples, they are not very acidic. Okay, they don't have a very high sugar content, so they're fairly close to alkaline level, especially a Granny Smith like this one. If you get into like Golden Delicious and sweeter apples and galas and stuff, you're going to get more sugar content. You're going to get a more acidic apple, and acidic is what you don't want. So, but again, if you limit your sweets to 1 item in all of this, you're going to be okay. But only one per person, or 1 kiwi per person, or 5 grapes or so per person. Not all of it, one of them. So you can choose what you want based on what's in the store, what you prefer to eat, what you like in your juice. You might try different ones and decide that you prefer one or the other. But you can also vary it and shake it up a little, and that way you get different exposure. Within a week you could have 2 of each, you know, and so that if you do a green juice every day, you'll kind of cycle through and get different nutrition, so that's good. Kiwis are a little tart, kind of like an apple can be tart, and so sometimes the kiwi doesn't provide quite enough sweet for some people, but it's very good for you, so you can sort of choose where you want to go with it. These are going to be decidedly sweeter, so don't put as many, because you're not going to need as many to balance out a green juice. These are actually frozen. Again, in New York City we have 3 freezers in this apartment, and that works out very well. So you buy things that are small and useful, and then you put them in the Ziploc in the freezer, and then you don't have to haul things up the stairs all the time. So these are just frozen red grapes, and we recently started using them in juicing as well because apples got too expensive, so we just switched to something else. You can also use Asian pear. Excuse me, Asian pear or regular pears. They could also work very well here. I just don't have any right now. But that would be sort of the extent of it as far as we're concerned. So we're going to choose one of these today. However, the plan today, and this would be for a jar of this size. So if you're going to make this kind of juice, one of these, okay? If you're going to make a double, then you can pick 2 of these, okay? So that's kind of how it works. So one sweet, one acid item per 16 ounces. And this is 32 ounces here. So that's as far as that goes. So as far as these fruits here, or little flavor section here, actually the flavor section is all this. You need the ginger, the citrus, and one of these to kind of balance out the whole juice. But as far as the acidic section here, the fruit section, the way it works is generally one of these for 16 ounces. So you can either do the apple, the kiwi, or the 5 grapes. That would be the match for 16 ounces. Now you can go more hardcore and drop that, but for most normal people, that's probably a good starter level of fruit. If you're going to do one of these, again, if you're a starter, then you get to pick 2 of them. Okay. If you're more hardcore, like me, you might just do one of them for a large juice. It also depends, like, if you have a bunch of kale and things like that, broccoli and kale and heavy-duty stuff in there, that tends to need a little more balancing. But if you have 3 cucumbers in here and not as much of this, then you don't need as much of this. So you kind of figure it out. Celery is fairly neutral. Cucumber is very neutral. Lettuce is not as neutral as you might think. So, but this is very neutral. Cucumbers are excellent for juicing because the flavor is just a bunch of liquid, alkaline liquid, without adding any particular pungency to it. So today the plan is to make 2 of these. One for the cameraman and one for yours truly. So let's look at what that's going to take. Now, if you're going to make one of these, you need about a bowl of this. And we mean cut up somewhat finely and certainly topping out a bit. That's what you need to make one. Now, see, what would you rather do? Eat this or drink this? See, you'll be chewing all night. And besides, the way a good masticating juicer works, such as this one, which we'll show you in a minute, it actually chews your greens about 3 times better than your teeth. In other words, you're getting that cell wall breakdown, so you get all that good stuff out of all the leafies before you swallow, because it's all broken down, it all gets mashed up. And so you're actually getting 3 times as much out of your greens by juicing them than you would by eating them. So let's do the math. This bowl is twice as big as that one. This bowl is 3 times as big as that one. This is 3 quarts. This is about 6. Alright, so in theory, the juicer can grind up the greens in this bowl so well that you would only need to drink this much green juice, as in this much green juice, to get the job done. However, if you were to eat it as a salad, because your teeth are only 1/3 as effective as a juicer like that, you'd actually have to eat a salad like this to get the same amount of nutrition out of it. Now that would have you chewing all week, right? So that's why people juice. That's the whole reason for juicing, is the efficiency with which you can get all these nutrients out into your system. Plus they come into a liquid form right into your body and they're ready to go. There's no need for extra liquids to digest all this. It's all in the package. So let's go through these bowls again. Now that we've established that you don't want to be chewing through your juice. So this goes with a 16 ouncer and this is a 3-quart bowl. If you double that, you get into a, this is a 1.5 quart bowl, I'm sorry. This is a 3-quart bowl, it's twice as much. Okay. And that will take care of one of these. So again, what looks better? I mean, you can take this into your office, sit and drink it while you work, or you can sit and try to chew your way through this stuff. Hopefully you'll be done by sunset, you know. So that's it. That's 3 quarts. So 3 quarts to 32 ounces. You can almost think of it as 1.5 ounces to about 15 ounces of juice. That kind of works in the head with the math. And you can kind of think of this as, this is 3 ounces, right? 3 quarts. So you can sort of think of 3 quarts going with about 30 ounces. If you need that kind of mnemonic help. I can get my math straight. Here's about 6 quarts in here, okay? 6 quarts then would be about 60 ounces of juice. So that's the goal for today. We're going to fill this thing up and top it out a little bit, and then that's going to be juiced, and you'll see that that's going to yield about 2 of these. So that's the plan. And now how you want to do it is really up to you. But again, try to keep a balance. You know, we're not going to juice all this today. This is more than you need to fill this bowl, as you can see. But we'll probably go with half the kale, about half the broccoli, all the spinach because it's needed to be used today. And then we're going to go with a fair amount of this lettuce here because we have so much. Probably not so much of this because this makes a good salad too, so we'll save that for salad. These are going in. These are going in. This is going in. And then probably maybe all these 3 today, I think, because we have a lot of greens. So we'll probably put 3 fruit. We actually qualify for 4 fruits, as you know, because you can put 2 fruits per big jar. But we're going to put 3 fruits for 2 jars because we're slightly hardcore. So that's what we're going to be doing. So we're going to wash this up, and then we're going to kind of show you the cutting process a little bit, and then we'll get on to the juicing. Okay, so that was the part about the regular green Mary, as we call it, this guy. Now, another thing we've started doing is doing what we call shooters, or shots. And they have something to do with why this is called Mork's Saloon. You can do shots with parsley, you can do shots with cilantro, you could theoretically do shots with basil. We're not hardcore enough for that right now, so we eat our basil as pesto, which we made another video showing you how to make that, which you can look up. But tonight we're going to make a parsley shot and a cilantro shot. So that could be either one of these, like up to half, or one of these. It kind of depends on how much you have and when you need to use it, because it might go bad. So, you know, just keep your glasses handy. So that's what we keep over here. Bunches of cilantro, and again, you want organic because it's just better for you. And for something like a little glass like that, for a shot glass, you're probably looking at about this much. That's about a shot glass. If you want to fill the other one halfway, then you're looking at half this bunch. Now that sounds crazy, right? Eating half a bunch of cilantro like that. Guess what? It's extremely good for you, okay? It cleans your bloodstream, it adds mineral, all sorts of good stuff. So don't hold back, just eat it. Parsley. You have curly parsley, and then you have this flat leaf Italian type parsley. This is much easier to juice, and it makes a better flavor. The curly parsley will tend to pulp up a little more, so and it's fairly strong flavor too. So we prefer to juice this. It almost looks like cilantro, but not quite. For those who are not familiar, they're not the same. Okay, cilantro, parsley. And this is from the farmer's market today, organic parsley from the farm. So again, if you're going to do a shot glass, take about that much, right? Stems and everything, all the way. The beauty of a masticating juicer, once again, is it'll churn everything into juice. So stems and everything, there's no waste. It dries the pulp, it's great. Half of this bunch will probably get you a glass, like again, up to the edge here would be about how much you'll get for half a bunch of parsley. That's a fairly heavy duty shot of parsley, I'll just have you know, but that's something I can say we've certainly done. We just don't do that every time. And parsley cleans your blood, it's very good for you, it's got iron, it's got everything. Now, what you can put in your in these shots is similar to what you can put in the other drink as far as flavoring goes. You don't really put ginger and stuff, but we don't really even put citrus in those things, which you could, but you don't really need it. You can put cucumber to ease it a little bit, but it's not necessary. But for a little bit of balance, we put might put a couple of grapes for two, like one grape per shot glass plus the green, or like maybe an eighth of an apple, maybe a quarter of a kiwi, something like that. You don't need much. It's just a little bit. So don't overdo it on the fruit, because then you're basically going to be putting your drink out of balance as far as the pH goes, and you want to keep it alkaline once again. So we're going to get cutting and chopping and cleaning, and then we'll get back to you when there's something more to show. Okay, so far I've cut up the cilantro and basically half a kiwi, a quarter of a kiwi, and the parsley and a quarter of a kiwi. So that's ready to juice. Now we're going for the big stuff. I tend to do all these things first, and then I do all the leafies at the end, because it's easier to fit everything in the bowl that way. This has all been washed. So we're just going to show you how, for the omega bursts, how we cut the produce, because it varies a bit by the juicer. And cutting pieces into certain sizes helps the juicer take it. So it's actually important to kind of get it straight. These are, you want sort of chunky, because they help the juicer grab the leafy things when you alternate as you put it in. So just sort of chunk these cucumbers out like that. That's fine. They go through very easily, seeds and everything. Of course, the grapes, just dump them in. The kiwi, give it a couple of chops. Peel, fine. It's organic. We don't have to worry about stuff like that. The apple, what is it? There's arsenic or cyanide in apple seeds. I forget which one it is. I think it's cyanide, isn't it?
I don't remember. I think you're right.
But in any case, we take the seeds out. Some people do, some people don't. But the core you can leave. There's no seed here, so you can just leave that in there. But just take the seeds out. Just quarter those up. Again, these are good pieces for the juicer to grab stuff, so you kind of want to chunk the apples a little like that. That makes it nice. And I already cut up some broccoli, so I just have a piece of stem I was going to show you. The stem you kind of want in a size like that it really helps the juicer take the produce. So these are good pieces. They're helper pieces. They'll help you get the produce through. And the ginger here has been washed, and basically you don't peel it, you just slice it up and stick it in. Same with this guy, just cut the end off. Ginger can mold at some point, I mean it's possible, but it's rare. But in like climates like tropical Hawaii, it can happen if it sits out. You can cut off the mold on ginger and it's actually still good inside. But better yet, just keep ginger in the refrigerator and they last for a long time. So these I just cut the ends off to kind of clean them off. They've been washed, of course. I tend to take and give it a slice like that. And then like that. And then we just group it up. And then for this, because it's so fibrous, see this fiber stuff will get stuck in the juicer. So we don't want that. So we're gonna basically cut that fiber to nothing. So you just stack it up like this and cut it like this, and you'll not have a problem. And celery will actually help you feed the produce through the machine when it's cut like this. So this is what you want right here. There we go. Stuff that in there too. And then again we had some lemon juice, which we're going to put in, just the lemon juice. And then we have a lime also, so we can show you how that gets cut for juicing. You cut the ends off, and it'll be the same if you're going to juice a bunch and process it to put in the freezer. It's the same system. So when I do this, I do 100 of these at a time. 100 in a sitting, freeze it all in ice cube trays, and done with it. You can just keep the juice in the fridge while your ice cube tray is busy freezing stuff, and as soon as it's done, you just switch it, Take the cubes out, put them in a Ziploc, and put a new load of juice in. You don't have to, sit and do this peeling again. You just do it all at once. Keep it simple. But you basically want to get the peel off because not because it's organic, so that's okay, but there's these oils in this peel that can make a juice kind of unpalatable. However, I should mention, if you clean with vinegar, like clean the house, you can actually take these lemon and lime peels, put them in a jar, like I have a big jar like that, just put peels of about 4 limes in there, pour vinegar in there too, and you actually get yourself a nice fresh citrus smelling vinegar jar that you can then use to pour into whatever cleaning purposes you're going to be doing. So why not? If not, then they go into the compost. All this will go into compost after we're done. So just quarter these guys, pop them in there. There we go. And then what we're going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and wash these. You don't have to watch me doing that. We'll just do that and come back on the video when we get to cut it. You notice I left the turmeric out, and there's a reason for that. Because when we green juice, as always, it's organic produce. It's good for you. It's not cheap necessarily unless you're growing your own. So we tend to run the pulp through again. So we juice once, we take the pulp, we run it through the machine one more time. And if you do that with turmeric in the mix, it can tend to be a little earthy. So we tend to leave the turmeric out, and that goes in when we do our last run in the juicer. Then we put the turmeric in there, because otherwise it can get a little potent. This is not much turmeric for the amount of juice we have. You don't need more than that. I mean, this is plenty of turmeric per person per day, so there's no reason to put more. But it might be masked fine in a large juice like this, but if you do a small one like that, you're probably going to taste the turmeric. So we just, for principle's sake, leave it out, and we'll put it in toward the end of the juicing process. So I'm going to go ahead and clean this, and then we'll get back to you. I can inform you that at this point, I've been cleaning and cutting for about 10 to 15 minutes. So if you compare that to the time of preparing dinner, it's really not that bad.
Okay.
So we're just at the end of the cleaning process now. It's been about 5 minutes, and you get faster as you do this. If you do this every day, you can clean that in about 5 minutes. It's not that bad. You're dealing with organic produce, so sometimes you will have to navigate your way through the produce a little bit if there has been a visitor before you. But frankly, I see it as a good sign. If there has been a visitor, that means this is not something with a bunch of crap on it. Pardon my French. It's actually worthy of eating by normal organisms. So I don't have an issue with that. But just watch for it, and also make sure you wash off all the dirt. You know, if you buy it from a farm that has a lot of dirt that gets attached to it, make sure you wash it off. Now, I'm not big on fluoride. This is fluoridated city water because New York City is still stupid enough to put fluoride in the water. So, which we take out and make our own reverse osmosis water, which we have another video that shows how to do in an apartment like this. So I do tend to, I'll definitely wash my produce in regular water because it's too good to use reverse osmosis for that. If you have to make your own reverse osmosis, but trying to squeeze it a little bit to get the worst water off. Okay. I'll just take one of these guys and wipe up the mess here. Alright, so that's ready to cut. And this stuff here, this is spinach and the kale, and I'll just go ahead and squeeze that too. I need to eat the fluoride. It's poison. It's a pesticide byproduct, and it's not meant for human consumption. And if your dentist tells you so, they've been paid by somebody. Just my personal opinion. There we go. So now, I'm just I try to kind of roll this up in a big roll and then just cut away. So we'll just stick it like that. This is probably the biggest head of lettuce we've had this summer, so I actually have to angle it to fit it on the board, because in New York City we have small spaces. So that's no reason not to juice. So between washing everything and cutting it, at this point, a big bowl like this takes me about maybe 20 minutes to prep. Taking it, cleaning it and cutting it. So if you compare that with making dinner, really, I mean, there's really no excuse. Okay. And this is part of your dinner, because if you imagine all this stuff going down the hatch, your pie hole's going to be busy for a while. And combining with this, you could, obviously if you're going to do dinner along with this, you can make a small portion of your pesto pasta, or a piece of grilled salmon with a little sauteed bok choy or something like that next to it. You don't need much, because this actually is part of your dinner, as you can see. Now, how would you like to chew your way through that? Okay, and if you were to get the same out of chewing as you would juicing it, remember the juicer is 3 times more efficient at grinding this stuff up to get everything out. You will swallow it when it's like this, you know. The juicer will get everything out, extract everything. If you were to actually chew your way through what the juicer's going to do for you, you would need a third more on top of this to actually get the full amount of what would be the equivalent. So I just want you to envision that and then decide that maybe juicing is the way to go.
3 times more, right?
3 times. Well, this is a double load, right? So,
Oh, I see.
so, but we're talking about this size. What the juicer can put into this thing, you would need this plus 50% more to chew your way through that. That would be the equivalent in terms of food value. So, let's grab this. We had a little lettuce we cut yesterday that we didn't need, so we're just going to toss that in here. And you can put tomatoes in. I mean, you can put stuff, if you have stuff that needs to be used. You can toss tomatoes in here too. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just that we have to buy our produce here in the city, so we don't, you know, we have a pretty basic routine because we have to purchase what we put in. So, but that's precisely why I run the pulp through the machine twice, and we'll show you how that works, because then you get more bang for your buck. Having said that, we've determined that here in New York City, doing what we're doing here with the ingredients, it costs you about $3.50 to make one of these. That's not too bad, you know, especially when you see how much produce goes into it. So we'll go ahead and wipe this up here so we don't end up with the famous flood. But anybody can do this. I mean, this is a tiny kitchen. Anybody can do this. It really isn't that difficult. The key is to organize your refrigerator so you have room for your produce if you're in New York, because, or any other small town. I'm sure Tokyo is the same. Because, you know, you only have so much space. Sometimes what you can do is cut produce down and put it in a Ziploc so it's a little bit more compact. Just be careful with leafy greens that go bad if you keep it too tight. You can't stuff it in too fast, too hard. Okay, here we are. So I'll wash off here too, because we had all that produce sitting over here. Here's a reality video. You do a lot of wiping and washing, but right now we're just going to give you the reality show here. This is what really happens behind the scenes. And there's still plenty of this, as you can see. I took like 10 leaves off and there's still plenty. So that's like the biggest head of lettuce in the century. At least in this kitchen. So we don't know if we're going to use this or this yet, but I have a feeling it's going to be the small shot glasses. So we'll prep for that. So there's the cilantro shots, the parsley shots, and the 2 greens. And this we'll put away. Because again, in New York, there's no space for anything you don't need. Okay, here comes the juicer. So this is a masticating juicer. Masticating means chewing. And it's an Omega Vert 350, or Omega VRT Vert 350 HD. Now, this is how it works. It runs at 80 RPMs. This thing spins around slowly, grinding up, and the little wheel here, blah blah, and then out comes the pulp here and out comes the juice here. This is just a basket that holds everything in place and scrapes stuff around. And here's your filter, your, what do you call it, your screen, which is a fine screen, and again it's got little calcium, because there's actually a lot of calcium in these greens. You don't need calcium pills if you're eating these greens. It's very efficient and easy to clean. So there we go, we got that in there. And you match up that little hole in there with a little hole there. So there you go, right there, boom. And then this auger goes in here, and then this goes on top. At 80 RPM, it won't heat up your machine, it won't punch your fingers, it won't masticate your fingers, you can't get through. It's actually impossible to get hurt. A centrifugal juicer is the other type of juicer, and it will have a basket and it spins. And it spins at a really high RPM, which means you get a lot of, plus you get a lot of air in there because it spins very fast, so it brings in a lot of air into whatever juice you're making. And that actually oxidizes your juice as you're making it, which is pointless. And I mean, why bother cleaning all this produce if you're going to have a juice that's half potency of what it could be? Plus, I forgot what I was going to say, so that's not important. Oh yeah, it also makes the pulp wetter. It doesn't extract the juices as efficiently, so you end up with wetter pulp that you can't actually get enough out of. So that's just a waste of juice. So this thing isn't cheap, but it'll pay you back in droves, I promise you.
Did you check the bottom thingy?
Oh yeah, that's right. We have a little manufacturing add-on here, I think. I think it was part of the original design. There we go. I should also mention, I mentioned calcium, so before I get going, I mentioned calcium. There's calcium in greens. There's also omega 3s in greens, actually. There's also an issue if you have a thyroid problem, which actually I do. Actually, I have no thyroid, it's been removed. If you're taking thyroid medication, you can have an issue with cruciferous vegetables, which is like the kale especially, also broccoli, and I think lettuce might also qualify as cruciferous vegetables. So any cruciferous vegetables will tend to bind with thyroid hormone. They like to do that. And I think it does. I mean, I checked my numbers recently and I think it does do that. But the way to solve the problem is to just take your thyroid medication in the morning and drink your juice at night, or vice versa. Just keep it a little bit apart. You should do the same with calcium anyway, so there's calcium in here as well, so just keep it apart from your thyroid hormone. And if you're going to have a juice at lunchtime and you take your thyroid meds in the morning, maybe put a little more cucumber and things into the lunch juice so it's not as heavy in cruciferous vegetables, and then put the more cruciferous vegetables as further away from your thyroid medication. Saying that because there are quite a few people that are out there on thyroid medication, so it's actually relevant. And you don't want your green juice to drop your thyroid levels, because that's not fun. So we're going to send this stuff through, and I'm just going to show you a portion of it. I'll turn the video off and show you the result. Now we are going to be making the big mamas here, so I'm going to use the big thing for the juice and the small one for the pulp, because that's reality. Now in this juicer, what you want to do is alternate things. That's the key. Okay, so you push some stuff down. Now we're going to get down to the alternating items first, because they're at the bottom. But the key is this juicer likes alternating textures, and that helps to push things through. And pretty soon you'll see things. Here comes the first juice. And I'll grab some of that celery and apples and cucumber here at the bottom. There we go. And it'll squeak and mourn and all kinds of stuff, but that's okay. That's part of the Omega Bird experience. So this here we can use to push it down a little. And this is the masticating juicer in action. It sounds completely different than a centrifugal juicer, which you would have to have earplugs practically to run. At least some models. We're going to go down here and alternate again. So this pulp here is fairly dry coming out. I mean, it's, you know, it's like mulch almost. That we're going to run through again, because there is actually more to be extracted from this. If you wet it down a little bit and you run it again, you can get more out of it. So that's what we'll do. But once you get the hang of this, it's actually pretty quick. The whole process, I mean, normally in this house, I think we can do a juice up in about half an hour. This is we don't always do the large juices, it depends. But if it's a small juice, you can prepare definitely in half an hour, and a big one probably in half an hour, 45 minutes, you know. So it really isn't too bad. especially when you consider how long it takes to cook dinner. And there's hardly any dishes. So we're going to turn it off for now. You can see we can't quite see how much we have, but this is about twice the size of that. So, and this here is 32 ounces, right? 4 cups. So this is about 8 cups. So we're getting close. So here's the objective. So if you only use frozen lemon juice instead of lemons, you'll often have enough lemon juice left in the bottom that you don't need to do anything. But we need to add a little water today because we are going to rerun the pulp. So just take this pulp here. It's pretty impressive actually. Show you. I mean, that's what's left, okay? So all that produce that was in here becomes this and that. Alright? That ought to say something. Now, what I'm going to do is put a little bit of water in here, just enough to mush it up a little bit, because then it works really well to get it through the second time. That should be enough. So and then you just work it through like this, and you leave a few chunky pieces in there, just like apple or like cucumber or something, just to have that texture in the pulp to help move it through the machine well. Those who might watch this who have a vert will know exactly what I'm talking about. For anybody buying a vert, this will be useful information for you when you get to juicing. So we just take a handful of this, yeah. Actually, at this point, my cameraman is reminding me, this is when we put in our turmeric. Because this is the last load. We don't run the pulp through more than once because it doesn't seem to increase the yield. So there's not much point in spending time doing it. It took about 5 minutes for the machine to make this much juice. So that's not bad. And now we're rerunning the pulp here. As you can see, it's still coming. I mean, that's not the water I put through. That's juice. Okay? I didn't put that much water, so that's just squeezing it more. So now you have this even drier stuff coming out. And that's how, when you have to purchase your organic greens, this is how you ought to do it. Because, as you can see, it's coming through very nicely still. And I mean, you could push it and exhaust it further, but we feel it's not worth it with the greens. With citrus, it's totally worth it. If you do this with grapefruit, you can keep going and going and going until there's hardly any pulp left. And it doesn't affect the flavor at all. It's just perfect. So it looks like we're still cruising here. And as long as you get stuff out, there's still juice in the greens. That's the point. Alright, so last handful goes in. And we're just going to give that a chance to come through. And that will be about the right amount of juice that we're looking for here. I'm known for being pretty good at measuring my produce against what I intend to get as a yield. People sort of laugh at me for that. Or they admire me, I don't know. I don't get too full of myself, so I consider it sort of a joke. But, see, it's stopped running. There's a little bit in here, but nothing to worry about. So we're gonna call this quits. But of course, since we have cilantro and parsley to do as well, we're gonna do nothing. We're just gonna leave it right there, because for cilantro and parsley juice, we do not rerun the pulp. So we just leave everything the way it is. We don't have to empty this. We just let that stuff run right on top of everything else, and then we clean the machine at the very end. And again, if you're making grapefruit juice or something like that in front of it, you can actually make the grapefruit juice first, and then put that in the refrigerator. Then you run a little bit of water just to clear the machine, and then you can run your green juice right afterwards without cleaning the machine. And after that, you can run your parsley and or cilantro juice through without cleaning the machine. So you can get 4 juices out of one machine cleaning, which is pretty good considering it only takes 5 minutes to clean the machine anyway. But why waste your time, right? So we're going to, again, in Hawaii you learn all the many uses of chopsticks, and we discovered, we're in New York now, but we were in Hawaii at some point, how easy it is to stir stuff like this with a simple chopstick. So that's what we'll do. But you can see how green this is? This is hefty, this is good. It's what you want. It's chlorophyll. Pure chlorophyll heaven. So there we go. And sometimes you get more foam. If you time your machine right and kind of make sure you don't overstuff it. If you overstuff it, you might get more foam. If you kind of pace the machine with what it can handle, And again, it took about 5-10 minutes to make this. Yeah, I'm gonna have to. It never works to pour from that big one, so we'll scoop it in for the first few scoops. But if you don't want it to foam, you can. I mean, you could filter it too, but that's kind of pointless. I mean, it's good food, so. But if you stir it, you can kind of stir the foam in, and then you can always shake the juice after a little bit to get the foam to work itself in. If you have a problem with foam, I think we can probably go ahead and pour it now. Cross fingers. Also, a good reason to stir it is that you want to make sure that your ginger didn't sink to the bottom and the last person gets all the ginger. You kind of want to mix it up a little bit to make sure that everybody gets the same. But that's it right there. So this goes back over here, and we have not quite the same amount. So these are actually 33-ounce jars, so we are about, you know, probably got about 30 ounces out of that. I mean, each. So then what happens is we get our straws out. See, most of the plastic straws are made in China, and plus they add to the landfill. So we actually discovered that on eBay they have such things as aluminum straws. Why not? And you can
Stainless steel.
I mean, only aluminum straws, stainless steel straws. And if you rinse them, like right after you're done with the juice, you really don't need to do much. But they have little pipe cleaners you can use to clean them out if you're, you know, fussy about that. So we just put one of these in each one. And then there's the thing about turmeric. Turmeric is very good for fighting things like cancer, colds, everything else. But the absorption rate of turmeric increases tremendously when you eat it with some kind of pepper. Now the verdict's still out as far as whether it's black pepper or red pepper, and the discussion's been had several times in this house and with friends we know. So for good measure, we just make sure we have a little bit of both. So what happens now, again, New York City is a tight space. What happens now is we just put a little bit of pepper in here, just a tiny bit. It's not going to affect the flavor at all. There we go. And then, because fermented foods are so good for you anyway, we hide in this little hippie fridge here something like kimchi, which is lacto-fermented raw food. Okay, it's really good for you. It's also organic. And I get a certain advertised Hawthorne Valley because they make some really good kimchi. Keep it in the fridge. It's sensitive because it's a raw food. So we have a scoop of that on a little cracker. Gluten-free, of course, since there's a gluten-free household here. And that has hot pepper in it, like red pepper in kimchi, so that takes care of the hot pepper part of it. Otherwise, you could certainly eat a little salsa or something like that to, you know, get your hot pepper. So that's what we have for the, that's how we take care of the green juice. You also should have a little bit of fat with your green juice. It helps absorption of all this good stuff. So what we'll do there is just have a piece of raw cheddar, like raw milk cheddar cheese, or maybe a cracker with a little pastured butter on it, organic butter, pastured, good grass-fed butter, which is also good for you actually, despite what many people say. So a little bit of cracker with cheese or a little butter, and that takes care of the need for a little bit of fat. And that will help you absorb this stuff 100%. I mean, this is liquid. Your body is going to scream with glee when this goes down. Believe me, even if you don't think so, just wait. So here we have the bowls we did with, this is the cilantro, and this is the, no actually, this is the parsley, and this is the cilantro. If in doubt, you can always rub a leaf and smell it. You'll know right away. I'm going to show you how to put one of these through, and then I'll do the other one off camera, and then we'll toast at the end. So we'll start with the, I think we'll start with the cilantro. And again, just the two little pieces of kiwi, that's all you need. And you keep them out so that you can run them through at the end and help clean the machine a little bit, because this stuff might get a little stuck. And sometimes you can actually put a little bit of that pulp back up just to kind of help create traction if you need to. So you stuff this good stuff down here, and pretty soon you'll see it start to come out. you go. And this is cilantro juice right here. And you don't get monstrous amounts. I mean, there's a lot of air between these leaves. It's not a huge amount of stuff, but this is an herb. So you don't need that much to get a pretty good dose. And it's kind of appropriate to put them in shot glasses, I think. So we're going to pop these two in for a little traction, and then I will put a little bit of pulp back in just to help traction, because it also helps to bring this pulp helps to bring the last juices through. You know, everything travels south, so that's nice about a vertical juicer, is everything kind of moves with gravity, so I think you get more out of your juice. Some masticating juicers are horizontal and you kind of put stuff down straight, but then it has to turn this L corner to get out, and it seems like that may not be quite as efficient, so I think we're there. That looks pretty good, and that looks like about the right amount, so we're going to turn the machine off. And then this one, you don't really need a chopstick, you can just kind of swish it around. This is way down there. And then we'll just take this and pour it into these shot glasses here. So there's a cilantro shot there. And another one. I think we have just enough to fill 2 glasses. I said I was good at that, right? So there you are, just enough to fill 2 glasses there. So I'm going to run the parsley, and then we'll have a little toast at the end. So far so good. So we're done. The parsley has been run through. So we have parsley shot, cilantro, and our green Marys here, our mega Marys. I'm going to take this thing apart. It's very easy to clean this thing. It's super easy. I'm not going to do it right now, but it takes 5 minutes. And here we have pulp. This is all that's left after all that. And that will be donated to the compost bag here, which in New York City can be given to the green market people on Saturdays. Or if you have a person on the street that can dig a spade into one of the tree pits and just dig a hole, put it in, and a week later the worms have taken care of it. It's very, very simple. You can compost right on your own block. And this is the only scrap we had from all that, because you can do stems and everything in your juicer. So it's really very, 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 very little waste when you're doing this kind of stuff. We have a little cleaning to do here, but it's not too bad. And then, as I said before, it doesn't always require this much. It just depends what you're putting in and how much you're juicing. Anyway, for gluten-free people, we have Mary's Gone crackers. They're very nice. I really don't work for the company. I just eat the crackers. We talked about raw milk cheese to add a little fat when you're eating these green juices, because they need a little fat to be absorbed better. So here's an example of Bally's organic raw milk cheese. Raw milk being that enzymes are in there, and it's as good as raw milk, which you can't buy in the stores because some silly law has decided that that's wrong. Pasture butter, it's from the freezer. But just to show you, this is green butter made by from summergrass. And here's the kimchi that adds the heat, the hot pepper, red pepper, and fermentation. So this is a very good combination to have with your green juices. So on that note, cheers. Parsley.